I'm doing applied behavior analysis for my intervention systems project. The medical definition of applied behavior analysis is psychological therapy that uses techniques such as operant conditioning, developed from the objective analysis of observable behavior to make changes to socially significant behaviors that are abnormal or harmful. The abbreviation for applied behavior analysis is ABA. ABA was created by Dr. Ivar Lovaas in the 1980s. He developed it from a branch of psychology known as behaviorism, which became popular in the 1950s by Dr. Skinner and Pavlov. Um, it was an effort to understand how humans behaved while removing the influences of their thoughts, their emotions, their feelings. Lovaas's original study occurred in 1987, tracking 19 children, and took part over 2 years. The follow-up to the study reported that the group gained an average of 30 IQ points, and that nearly half of them entered into mainstream education. While this study was helpful in proving that ABA was effective, it failed to give a good sample of the autistic community. The study focused on high-functioning autistic children, most of which were girls. No other attempts since then have been able to replicate Lovaas's study or his outcomes. However, despite being unable to replicate it, ABA is still widely accepted and used and recommended to most parents for children with autism. In ABA today, many children with autism are participating in some type of an ABA program. The ones who do participate are in fact learning the skills that they are practicing throughout the program. However, while they are learning the skills, they often are not generalizing those skills outside of the structured ABA therapy setting that is prompt dependent. So those students are learning the skills, but then if they learn them in school, they're not able to transfer them to home. If they're learning them at home, they're not able to transfer them to school, or from parents to peers or peers to parents. The child's use of the mastered skill might come off as robotic to someone who doesn't know, or to the parents, because they are lacking a connection and enjoyment. Instead, they're simply focused on fulfilling the skill or the goal. In current ABA research, there are numerous branches of ABA now that different therapists use, and each therapist might have a little bit different style of implementing. As ABA continues to evolve, the evolution of the approach are starting to recognize how important fundamental social development is. So they're turning to teaching pivotal skills. And some pivotal skills are things like attention, attending, maintaining eye contact, and having a emotional connection or interest in the person or the activity that they're working with. ABA therapists are also now moving to teaching skills in a more natural learning environment. Previously, ABA was taught one-on-one in seclusion or a small setting where there's limited distractions, basically that promoted an ideal learning environment, and then students were not able to generalize into a regular learning environment. So now ABA therapists are moving into more of a natural environment, doing ABA therapy in the home, doing ABA therapy at community activities, as well as ABA therapy in schools. The audience for ABA therapy is really anyone with a disability that affects their behavior or social well-being, self-help skills, ABA is most regularly acknowledged for the treatment of autism, however. Aside from those with autism, it can be beneficial to anyone who needs to improve in developmental or behavioral areas. Despite the benefits that ABA can offer to a variety of individuals, some insurance companies will still limit coverage of ABA therapy to those individuals who specifically have autism, which means they are declining other individuals who may benefit from ABA therapy simply because they don't have autism. The implementation of ABA therapy, it focuses again on behavior. It is not concerned with why the child is having the behavior or tries to attempt to understand the child's behavior. It does focus on retraining an unwanted behavior. So seeing the unwanted behavior and training or teaching the child or individual to have a more appropriate response to that stimuli. This is most commonly done through the use of extinction and reinforcing wanted behaviors through the use of rewards. So extinction is when you simply do not respond to the behavior you do not want. There isn't a negative response, there isn't a positive response, you aren't responding to that behavior at all. However, when the child engages in the behavior that you are targeting that you want, then you reward the child with a food item or preferred activity, positive praise, whichever reinforcing item the child prefers. In order to provide adequate instruction for each child's specific needs, ABA therapy consists of a detailed curriculum that is created specifically for each child individually to cover their areas of need. Every child with autism or every child with a behavioral or developmental disability doesn't have the same needs in every area. So it's very important that the therapy being provided for each child is specific to their needs. Some of these needs include areas such as expressive and receptive language skills, pre-academic skills, so learning simple things like the alphabet or how to hold a pencil or to sit in a seat, as well as self-help skills such as teeth brushing or toileting, eating, dressing oneself. The skills are then broken down into smaller steps and discrete trials are performed. So when a discrete trials are performed, they repeat the same task, the same step, over and over and over until the individual masters it. And then they start on the next step and they perform that over and over and over until it's mastered, continually going back and practicing the previously mastered steps so that they are not forgotten. By the end, when the child has mastered all the steps, then they will practice completing the task in its entire sequence over and over until the task is mastered as a whole. Since ABA requires such intensive instruction, it is performed one-on-one in the school environment and is usually carried over into instructional times at home as well. These times can also be extended into community activities if the child is participating in an activity where ABA would be beneficial. Carrying over from school into the home helps the child to generalize those skills and those behaviors from the school environment to the home environment. It's common for children or individuals who need ABA therapy to master a skill in one place, but not be able to master it in another. And so carrying those skills over from school to home, or school to the community, or home to the community helps the child be able to use those skills in a variety of situations. In order to help with generalization, ABA therapy, again, is implemented in home, school, and community. It can be conducted across a variety of settings, including academics, family meal times and outings, socialization, playtime behavior, and self-care. Evidence of efficacy and appropriate use. Evidence-based interventions for autism spectrum disorder states that the best outcomes occur in ABA when initiated early in development, preferably prior to the age of 5. Currently, the typical age of early intervention is around 3. Most children who are identified as being on the autism spectrum or having a significant developmental delay start to see signs around the age of 3, and that's when a lot of the diagnoses occur. If a child is diagnosed at the age of 3, then they can enter into an early intervention program as opposed to regular preschool, so that they can begin to build on those skills a year or 2 prior to just going to preschool. The amount of ABA therapy needed to be optimally effective is recommended by a doctor. Typically, it ranges from 15 to 40 hours per week. And then it's totally dependent on whether the ABA is being applied in an educational setting, in a school, or an at-home behavioral treatment program. It also depends on the child's needs. If you have a higher functioning individual, they might not need 40 hours a week, whereas an individual who is lower functioning, who has more skill needs, might need the full 40 hours per week. Training caregivers to provide ABA is a critical part of ABA therapy. ABA, again, occurs usually in the home or community setting, as well as school, and so making sure that the people in the home and the community setting who are working with the child have appropriate knowledge and skills to conduct the therapy is important. It has recently been used through teleconsultations in order to provide strategies in ABA for very rural or underserving areas. This was something I did not know and was really excited to read and find out, because there are so many kids around the world who live in underdeserved areas and are not getting support that they need. And so I thought it was really cool that now they can use telecommunications in order to conduct some of these ABA therapies and help those children succeed as well. ABA that is delivered through as little as 1 hour a week through parent training can be effective in reducing behavior problems and building social communication in children with autism spectrum disorder. So although it is recommended that a child has 15 to 40 hours a week, for a child who's receiving at least a little bit, even if it's only 1 hour a week, they're seeing the benefits, and their parents are seeing gains in their child's behavior. ABA can be used with individuals of all ages and all ability levels, and now is often included in early intervention programs. So kids who enroll in programs such as Head Start usually benefit from some aspects of ABA as well. Evidence of efficacy and appropriate use. ABA therapy involves the use of a variety of interventions in the home, school, and community in order to teach necessary skills to those on the autism spectrum or with other disabilities which result in having a significant need in a particular skill area. Some of these interventions are, but not limited to, there are a wide variety of interventions, too many to list here. There's discrete child training, functional communication training, pivotal response training, antecedent-based interventions, and then there's some other specific ABA strategies such as reinforcement, prompting, extinction, task analysis, response interruption, early intensive interventions, again,